Kobe, it's awesome to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about your knowledge and experiences in the games industry.
Sure.
It can be challenging at times trying to navigate the early stages of it. There's so many different ways that one can enter the industry. Like we'll see with with how you got into it too.
Yeah.
Would you like to give an introduction of yourself, who you are, what kind of stuff you've done so far?
My name's Kolby. I started a little game studio. It's just myself called Scrambled Software. And I have one game out right now called Quail Crossing on Steam. Check it out. If you like Frogger games, then it's right up your alley, I'm sure. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell there. So
what I wanted to start with was to talk a little bit about the before you got into game design, to kind of give a little bit of context to your journey. And I believe it would have a lot of valuable insights into how you progressed into it and some of the work you're doing in it now. But what drew you to audio engineering and sound design in the first place?
When I graduated high school, I wanted to go and get some secondary education sort of thing. And I had learned how to play guitar in high school. So I just kind of knew that world a little bit. Like I knew how to do production and how to play an instrument. And so I had some familiarity with that, but I was actually kind of choosing between audio engineering course or a game development course at the time. And so I kind of weighed my options, and because I understood the audio side of it and I liked it, I figured out it was a bit more of a gamble to go with the game development course. So I ended up going into audio engineering, which got me a career in audio first. So yeah, it was just something that I already kind of knew. So that was why I went into it.
What parts of it had you debating between going into audio and game design?
I don't know. I think because it was such a broad thing, like game design as a whole, and it was kind of an enigma to me at the time. Like I didn't really understand what that meant. Like, so because I had like more audio stuff, like more audio background, it just felt more comfortable to go into that. But like there was nothing specific about like game design that interested me other than the fact that it was like working in games sort of thing.
So I'm assuming you were a big gamer when you were younger.
100%. Yeah, I've always been a big gamer. Like I couldn't even tell you the first game I ever played, sort of thing. Like I don't know what
been that long.
Yeah, so yeah, I've played hundreds and hundreds of games, and I love games. So it was one of those things that interested me, but I didn't know if I could make like an actual career out of it, sort of thing, or what that looked like at all. So
then you ended up going to school for audio. And then eventually after graduating, what were your expectations? Like, where did you think your career was going to go after your graduation?
During my time at school, I learned that I really like sound effects. Like I went into it for music, but I ended up like coming out of school with like a really deep passion for making sound effects and sound design. And so I thought I'd do something in like post-production. And technically that's actually what I do at work now, is I do like post-production audio essentially, and video now too. But I wanted to go into post-production for movies or games or something like that, was kind of the idea when I was graduating, sort of thing. So that was what I was hoping to do.
Most of what I understand about sound effects in video games comes from like older footage of people, like for old Disney movies where they're trying to make sound effects for sand and gravel. So they've got like a cat litter box with little slippers on their hands, and they're just moving it up and down to record the sounds of it.
Yeah, that's Foley design. So that's like actually like acting out like if you were like walking to like a video of somebody walking in sand, like on like if that's the movie, then you would do that like in time with it. And so that was something that I was really interested in doing too, for sure, was Foley. But I also just liked sound effects, like making sound effects with libraries and stuff like that, and just kind of fooling around and making weird sounds, and putting it to something, like having it bring something to life was something I really enjoyed. So that probably kind of leans into like how I got into games too, sort of thing.
You spent a bit of time then working in radio as well as commercial production. Were there any key lessons that you picked up along the way that whether it helped you move over into the direction of game design or just something that you've carried with you from then?
Yeah, I think like because it is like what I do, and I still do this. This is my day job, is production. So it's like producing radio ads or video content or whatever. I think that it's just like the idea of having like a production process, and like a lot of the high level thinking of that is the same, whatever it is. So like I've been doing it now for almost 15 years, sort of thing, and just having that like rigid, like this is how I get a project done, like for that long. I think that's something that actually did like help in like producing a game, because it's like it's the same kind of production mentality you have to have. It's like you have to get the assets, you have to put it into the program, you have to make an end result. And I think that overall that's kind of helped me, because I do that day in day out sort of thing. And I think that's probably beneficial to having that kind of just mentality behind producing a project in general.
Okay, so then the process that you would go through with audio, like in the current work you're doing now and in the game, the fundamentals of everything, it's very similar then.
Yeah, in a way. Like, I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into a game. Like at work, I don't have to program anything, and that's a huge, like that was a huge barrier for me to get into games. But yeah, there's a lot of like, I need to get these files, and I need to make these sound effects for, whatever the ad is. And I need to bring somebody in to voice it. And then I have to put that all together, and I have to do it in a timely manner. I think all of those kinds of like bringing every piece in together to like create a final thing has probably been beneficial to me. But it's hard to say if there's any actually direct correlation. But I think that, yeah, my work habits have kind of affected how I make games. So yeah, so there's maybe some crossover there.
You spent a bit of time working at Arcadia VR Lounge. Was this before you started thinking about getting into games, or was this kind of during the process?
I've technically been on like the outskirts of working on games for like since I graduated, because I actually did work on a small indie studio that was trying to produce a game in like 2012, and that was like a year or something like that I worked on it doing sound for this game. It didn't actually, and nothing actually came of it, because it just was an overambitious project. And at Arcadia, which was a local group in town just a few years ago, I had found they had a job posting online somewhere or something like that, and they needed a sound designer. So I ended up just contacting them. Actually, I think I made a little demo kind of thing for them, because I saw what they're going for. So I was like, I'll just make a little like quick little soundscape of what I think this project could sound like, and sent it to them, and they were blown away. So they brought me in and said like, yeah, we'd love to have you work here. And so that was I worked with them for a couple of years, and we got like a little demo that we kind of shopped around for. And that was an interesting project, because there was like, I got to record audio during mocap sessions.
So what do you mean by during mocap sessions?
So we would record all of the dialogue during like they would be doing like a mocap scene, like where somebody's giving a monologue or, whatever, talking about giving some exposition about the world. And I would record their audio there, sort of thing. So it was like it would match up exactly to what the performance was.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was a really, really neat experience. Like we had maybe 10, 12 people there, and it was just like, it felt like a real production, right? Because there was people in a mocap suit, and I had the boom mic and a mixer, and yeah, we had a bunch of actors and stuff like that. It was cool.
When I first thought of working in like audio for VR, I thought it would be, I mean, this is going to definitely show my lack of knowledge and understanding still of how game development works. But I imagine there was going to be a lot of challenging work figuring out how to do sound effects in like a VR setting, or like even just audio, just because it's all spatially aware now. For any of the work that you did, did you have to deal with or handle with any of those aspects?
Yeah, I did pretty much all the audio for that project. So it's not actually as much more complicated than like any regular 3D engine. Like it's just unreal. So if you put in like a sound cue in the world, you can hear it, and like if you turn your head in the VR, it just kind of it will turn where your head is listening from, sort of thing. So it just kind of does that. It did kind of make me think a little bit about I don't know if you've ever heard of binaural audio.
What is binaural audio?
They use like a head-shaped microphone that has like ears on it, and it's creates what's called a head shadow. And so when you listen like in with your regular ears, like your frequencies that you hear are actually affected by the density of your skull. And so what a binaural recorder will do is it will actually simulate that sort of thing. So they have like a dense like brick and like ears. So it actually creates like a very similar sound to what you'd regularly hear. If you want a good example of it, you can go on YouTube and look up a binaural barbershop, and it's like you can hear how they recorded it. And so they get like the clippers and go around your head, and you can hear it go around your head, and it's really cool. I thought it was something we might be able to kind of explore, but I looked into it. It's very challenging to do that with like a moving like object, because you have to record all the things like that. And once it's recorded like that, it's kind of like stamped into the recording. So it's actually really hard to like simulate that in real life. I think in a game engine, but I think there are some games that are kind of doing that now. They kind of simulate it, that kind of head shadow idea.
When you first graduated, did you expect at all that you were going to be doing work in the games industry?
I mean, it's something I always wanted to do, for sure. Like that's kind of been like a lifelong goal of mine, is to work in games somewhere. It's just something that I'm really passionate about. So it's something that I've always been trying to do. And yeah, if you look at like my LinkedIn, then it's like I've been trying to get into these game studios for a long time, sort of thing. And then, yeah, I ended up just kind of doing it myself a little bit. But yeah, that was always kind of the goal, was kind of get into games somehow.
Were there any moments where you started to question if that would happen? You know, maybe this isn't going to work out with the games industry. Maybe I won't be able to get in there. Or did it end up just kind of working out for you? Like not like working out as in like mentally, it just, you know, things just kept going in a way for you where you just kept thinking like, yeah, all right, I'm going to get there. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I think I gave up a couple times, to be honest. Like it's been like I worked on a couple small games that were on Steam, and those were the only games that I've worked on that actually released. So I've worked on a couple of projects for like several years that didn't see the light of day. So I think it's a tough industry, right? Like you have to front load so much with the development to actually get something out, that it's just hard, and you're always kind of rolling the dice on, will this project make it, will it succeed, you know, and it's really hard. And so yeah, there was a couple times that I think like in, you know, the mid 2010s that I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this sort of thing, but it's always been kind of something I wanted to do, and that I felt like I could do if I tried. And so yeah, I ended up basically starting my own studio to do that.
I think there's a lot of value in those moments where you found there was a lot of struggle, just because there's so many people new to the industry or just getting into it that are going to be going through or are already experiencing those kinds of moments. Are you comfortable to speak a little bit on them?
It's an ongoing struggle. Like it's like every day, even now, like I have a game release, but it's still an ongoing struggle to like keep the motivation and come back to like a lengthy project, right? You're working on these things for years at a time, or at least months at a time, right? So it's like, you know, every day is tough. I think the best way that I kind of got through it was just perseverance and drive. Like it was just, it's something that I almost need to do. Like, it's one of my favorite creative outlets is to make games. So, it was just something that I just wanted to, like, I desperately wanted to do it. And so I think there was just constant like mental struggle that like, if I didn't do it, it was going to be almost worse than doing it and failing, sort of thing. So I tried to make it with Quail Crossing specifically, I tried to make it as accessible as possible for me. So it's like, instead of coming home and then going straight down to my my work studio and like sitting there and like just isolating myself from my wife and our house. You know, it's like I will go and I'll sit on the couch and I'll get my laptop out and I'll just, I'll sit with my wife and watch a show or whatever, and I'll just be working on the game. And so it's like, it's a lot easier for me to just like pull open my laptop and do that sort of thing. I'm not having to like isolate myself and like seriously do this like really, intense work just by myself and like constantly dwelling in that like this is a big project. It's like, oh, I'll just pick off a piece here and there. I'll do a little pixel art today, or I'll program this one very simple feature and it's like 5 lines of code and then it's done, sort of thing. And that helps me keep like feeling good about it. Like I get like a little dopamine hit or whatever if I get like a little bit in the game. It feels like I accomplished something, and so that's the easiest way that I can keep doing it. But there are definitely times where it's like I don't want to even look at a computer screen right now, but I have to do this sort of thing, So yeah, it's a constant struggle. Like I think it's always going to be a constant struggle, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast.
So this is the first time I've ever heard someone say making it accessible for themselves. Is that something that you recently started doing?
I think that's something that I kind of developed last year when I was making Quail Crossing specifically. It was one of those like, if I reduce the amount of barriers to do this thing, then this thing will get done, right? So it's like, it's just trying to not like overthink it and like get analysis paralysis. It's literally like just pull open your laptop and start drawing pixels. Like it doesn't matter. Like if it's not good, it's not good, but at least you tried, right? So it's trying to make it so I can actually like consistently do it. And if it's something where I have to go downstairs and I have to like isolate myself away from everybody to do it, it's just, that's a barrier, right? So it's like I'd rather just be able to kind of just work on it slowly, even though I might not be getting the best quality of work at the time if I'm distracted or whatever, but it's like at least I'm still doing the work. So I think that's definitely a more recent thing that I've kind of a more recent process, I guess you could say, that I've kind of developed for my own creative outlet. So
what finally made you take the leap into solo game development after all of the work you'd been doing and are still doing? Like what pushed you over the edge to be like, that's it, I'm gonna make my own game?
I think it was that because it was October of 2023 when we had the meeting with the people at VR at Arcadia, and they basically said, hey, we have to cancel the project. Like there's not enough money and we're just going to shop the thing around and see if we can find some publishers for it. But as of now, we're going to have to cancel this. So at that point, and I'd already been kind of learning how to program just on my own time because it kind of bugged me that I couldn't program. So at that point, it was almost out of frustration that I just was like, okay, well, I've been part of a couple of game projects now that I've spent years on that didn't really go anywhere. And so I really wanted to do something. And I knew that if I was in control of it, it's like I would have a much better shot at actually releasing something, because I knew that it's like, this is something I want to do. And like, I'm so passionate about it that I knew if I took the reins and I actually had like the ability to do it, which was the real challenge, was actually like gaining all the skills to be able to do solo development. I knew that I could release something. So that was what was actually the motivating factor to become a solo dev, was probably the fact that I'd been part of a couple projects that didn't see the light of day. And so it was kind of a letdown, and then also kind of lit a fire under me to do it myself. So yeah,
it's got to be tough working on Quail Crossing and then also still having your full-time work. I know you touched base on figuring out ways to minimize the barriers and make it easier for you to be able to go and complete work, but you were saying too, you're married as well, so it's not like you're just some single guy who just has all the free time in the world.
No, it's true. I mean, I don't have kids, so that does help. We have a dog and two cats, and they're mostly independent, so that's fine. So sometimes when I have to sit, downstairs and work on a trailer or something, and I actually do have to isolate myself for like a serious piece of the project, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, it is. That's also definitely kind of a ongoing struggle. It's just like where do I put my time, and doing a full day's work and coming home and then being like, okay, I'm going to spend 4 hours working on this now. It's like that wears on you for sure. But it's, I think the thing that helps me is I think of it as like a hobby first. So it's something that I enjoy doing. Like every aspect of it there's at least something that's enjoyable. Even like if I'm programming like a settings menu or something, it's like, it's nice when you get that volume bar and it works right and it looks good, so there's always some level of enjoyment that I get out of it. And balancing the hours is tough, but because it's fun for me, it's not always like the worst thing. It's when you have deadlines and you're trying to like make Steam Next Fest and stuff like that, that's when it really that's when your divide of your time really starts to, you feel it as somebody that's working a full-time job and trying to make a game on the side. And yeah, I took a week off just to get my demo up for Next Fest. So that was, I spent probably 10 hours a day working on the game, without working a regular job that week. So that was it was like my vacation was working. So, but like I said, it's like something I enjoy. So it's fun for me. And so it doesn't feel like it's that big of a deal to do it most times. But yeah, it's one day is a different, feeling than the next day sort of thing. So yeah.
Were there any aspects of working on Quail Crossing that came just naturally to you, or other aspects that were just more challenging than you expected them to be?
Yeah, I mean, programming has always been a challenge, that's for sure. I feel like I'm getting a lot better at that, but I also had to learn pixel art, and I think when I started doing Quail Crossing was the first time I felt like I was like, okay, I'm making some pixel art that's actually, it's good, it's decent, it looks cute, there's, it fits the world, it like has the right color palette and all that. And it felt like I was finally getting somewhere with that. So that part felt like it was a struggle for a while. Obviously, the audio stuff came completely naturally to me because I've been doing that for so long. So I actually left that until like very end of the project. I'm like, I'm not even going to really do any audio stuff until like the end because like I know I can do that. So I kind of like backloaded all the audio stuff, but I had some audio in there just to make sure that it wasn't like dead silent. So yeah, it was I think the big things that came naturally would be the audio, and the things that didn't come naturally would probably be like almost everything else. So
did you have no background in art or anything like that then before getting into this?
Not really. No,
because I thought you either did that or hired an artist or something like that.
No, I learned pixel art. Like I started learning programming and pixel art at the same time ish, probably around 2021. I'd say I like actually started trying to do these things a little bit more frequently. And it was just learning on like evenings and weekends sort of thing, just like here and there. And then probably the year before I started Quail Crossing, I went back because I was getting frustrated with the programming aspect. Like game programming is a completely different animal to like, web programming or whatever. And so I actually had to go back and do some like programming basics. Like I learned just like basic Python, and that really helped because then I had like fundamentals. And when I went back into doing game programming, it was way more understandable because I knew the basics of like a programming language. And it was a lot easier to understand the concepts for game programming at that point. And art was a whole nother situation. I had to, do YouTube tutorials and just sit there and draw stuff and be like, hey, that looks cool, or that doesn't look cool, so.
Well, apart from then the programming and the art, were there any strengths or weaknesses that you noticed about yourself through working on Quail Crossing that you weren't aware of before? Or maybe you were, but to not quite to the degree? that you thought?
Yeah, I think I've always had a decent eye for like layouts and stuff like that, and so I think that kind of came across. I also think that like the game design, like the actual design of the game, came together pretty easily. Like it just felt like I could see where it needed to go. Um, and there's a couple times where I kind of resisted putting stuff in because a big part of making Quail Crossing was me like having restraint and not going above like way over on scope, because that's every new developer, like they want to make an RPG, and it's like that's like stop right there. If you haven't made a game before, don't make an RPG. Like it's a really hard thing to do. So I basically went back and I was like, I'm gonna just make a retro arcade Frogger game, because I grew up and I played Frogger on the Game Boy Color, and it was something that was near and dear to my heart as a kid. So I thought, I could probably make a game similar to that, and that's kind of how that came about. And it was like that was a core aspect of it, is like make it as simple as possible, you know. It wasn't trying to make the next big hit or anything like that. Like the goal of the project was make something simple that's achievable and actually achieve that thing and put it on Steam. And that was the goal. And so that was what I set out to do.
You mentioned that it ended up being really important to limit the amount of what you were doing, like to keep the scope from creeping too much. How did you go about that? Did you have anything you implement, like internal rules or like a process before you would implement something?
No, like formal process. It was more like just like before you go ahead and start putting stuff in there, like just give it a decent amount of consideration. So like I didn't have a dash in the game for a long time, like probably a month or so. It was just like you just run at the speed of the bird that I had set. And then I thought, well, a dash would make more sense, because then it gives a little bit of like interest to like when you're crossing the road. It makes it more exciting if you can like actively move faster to get out of the way. And so that was one of those ones where it's like, yeah, okay, well, that should go in there. But then the other one was the call mechanic, and it was actually requested by one of my friends who helped me playtest the game. He was like, hey, you should add like a call mechanic like in Pikmin. And I was like, yeah, that's something I'd kind of considered, so that the quail babies come close to the main quail. And so I thought about it for that one. I thought about for a couple months, I think, before I even tried to put it in. And then as soon as I put it in, I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly what the game needed, sort of thing. But I think it was just having that like stop, no, and don't at first kind of mentality, like just don't do that yet, sort of thing. Helped me keep it much more restrained, and like actually, feel like it's a much more cohesive project. Because if I had just gone off, like at one point I thought about giving the quail like magic spells and stuff, and like that would just it's not the goal of the game. Would have been
a very
right?
different game.
Yeah, so like, and then who knows where that would have went, like, so it was that kind of mentality.
RPG.
yeah, and then it then becomes an RPG, and then that's never getting finished, and I'd still be working on it. So yeah.
So where did the idea of Quail Crossing come from?
If you're from the Okanagan, then, because that's where I'm from, there's a lot of quail around here, California quail, and they cross the road all the time. And they have these, like, it's a bevy is what it's called, of quail babies. And so they'll have like a big like cluster of them. And I always stop for them. And like sometimes they take forever to cross the road. And I'd always say I'd say like, oh, it's like Frogger, but with quails. And so like when I was trying to make games last year, I was like, okay, I kind of challenged myself to a bit of a game jam, like a personal game jam, where it's like, I'm just going to try and make like a game loop in a week. And that was like, okay, well, what can I make then? If I'm going to try and make a game loop in a week, because I wanted a win condition and a lose condition. And I was like, well, it's got to be something really simple. And that was basically like, okay, well, I could make this quail game that it's kind of been bouncing around in my head for years. Let's just try and see what I can do. And so I quickly whipped up a quail pixel art quail sort of thing. And that's still the same quail in the game today. But yeah, it came together like pretty quick, and I thought, yeah, this could be like a full game. And so I ended up working on it much longer than that 1 week.
It's crazy how much little bits of inspiration come for all sorts of different games just from the simple
Yeah.
little things from day to day life.
Yeah, it's funny. You'll hear people talk about like what inspired certain things. I found out just today, I think, that I was watching a video and somebody was saying that the original Command and Conquers were influenced by Dune, like the original Dune book. So if you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, because like there's harvesters and the harvesters harvest the Tiberium or whatever it is, and in Dune they had the harvesters that harvest the spice and stuff like that. And it's like, oh yeah, I can see, yeah, it actually all stems from that, because I think there was a Dune game that was one of the first RTSs or something.
From your experience, do you have any advice that you would give or you could give to someone with a creative background who's thinking about getting into games they haven't quite yet?
Yeah, I think the biggest advice I would give is like go do game jams would probably be one of my first biggest pieces of advice. It's like you can be any skill level and you can still contribute to a game jam. Like it doesn't really matter. And then you get a real good feel of like how this kind of thing works. I would probably recommend not doing like the 48-hour game jams like right away. Like there are some that are a week or 2 weeks long. And if you can find somebody that's like already knowledgeable and wants to help other people learn, then that can be a really great way to learn it. Other than that, like you can just download an engine and just like start messing around and see what you can do. There's tons of tutorials out there, and it's really fun. I mean, I really enjoy it. It's not for everyone though, I will say that, but there's definitely a lot of fun to be had, and it's probably one of the single greatest like creative outlets you can do. You know, like there's so many different things that you can sink your time into and like and just be creative in it. So I think there's a lot of creativity in this industry, and I think it needs more creative. So yeah, like if you're interested, like just download a game engine and see what you can do, and yeah, join some game jams.
So it sounds like what you're saying is just do it.
Yeah,
just
pretty much.
Take a step forward, even if it's a little bit.
Yeah, even if you just like open it up and make a character move around, like, and then, you know, draw a little sprite and put it on there. It's actually incredibly rewarding to do that stuff, like when you're first starting out. So I would recommend people to try it out. And yeah.
Are there any misconceptions that you had coming into indie game development?
I don't know about misconceptions exactly. Like I had a pretty good idea of what it entailed when I decided to go solo, at least, because I'd been on some teams. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think I thought maybe it would be actually harder than it was, but in hindsight, because it's like it wasn't that. It was. I mean, it was hard, right? Like there's always tough things like that you have to overcome to do this, but like I was when I released Quail Crossing, I tried to stop and not make any more games and like give myself a break, but I ended up like basically starting something else right away. So yeah, I think like I thought it was going to be hard, but maybe it wasn't as hard as I initially imagined. Like there was weird things that were hard about it that I didn't expect. Like the Steam backend was really tough for me.
Do you think that comes from the background that you started with the audio industry, or was there some sort of source that you had that just kind of helped prepare you for what to expect?
I technically have been doing this for like a lot longer than like a year, because I've been messing around with game engines. Like the first game engine I used was like Game Maker in 2004 or something. Like I was a young child and I tried to do this and it did not go well. I made like one little game that was called Run from the Rock, and it was literally like you were a stick figure and you had to run in this small corridor and there was like a boulder and it would just kill you. There was no way to win. And so I guess I've been kind of trying to do this in some respect for so long that it just was like it was a lot easier for me to understand what needed to be done.
So then you've been a gamer for most of your life, and now you've spent a considerable amount of time in game development. Has your perspective on games in general changed at all from this?
Yeah, I think so. I don't play games the same way now that I've like been seriously using game engines for at least like the last 5 years. I'd say it's like there's definitely a different way I look at games, and I like sometimes I'll literally stop and I'll turn the camera up to like some little thing, and it's like, oh, look at this shader that's going on, like look at how they did this shader here, and my wife's like, I don't care about that, like it's just but I'm like, oh wow, look at how they did that, like, and it's like and I'll take notes in my mind about like, oh, I could do this one thing here in my game, sort of thing. And so that definitely has changed how I play games. And like I try to like pull back from that sometimes when I'm just trying to like play a game, but curiosity gets the best of me sometimes, and I'm like, look at this flag, look at how they did the shader on there, sort of. So yeah, there's definitely some level of change in how I experience games now.
Was there anything at any point where you thought you would need a specific skill or you would need some specific kinds of knowledge that it turned out that wasn't actually important at all to game design or just working in games in general?
I think the biggest one, and you see a lot of this online too, is it's like, you don't need to be the best programmer. Like, you can program very basic things, and most computers these days are strong enough that it doesn't really matter if it's not super efficient. So like, you can program a game with spaghetti code. I wouldn't recommend it because you're gonna slow yourself down trying to maintain all that code. But like, anybody who's ever released a game has probably put code in their game that they're not super proud of. Like, and that's just the way it is. And I think that like most people would probably like, a lot of people think that it's like, oh, in the back end of a game, it's probably all, this crazy tech people doing like crazy math in the background and stuff. And in reality, it's like, a bunch of if statements for like a bunch of things that like, it's just like, oh, it's just this huge if statement, like, and it really doesn't matter. Like, that doesn't matter at all. If the game works and it plays, anybody that plays the game doesn't care what the code is. Like, as long as it works and there's no bugs. So I wouldn't recommend it's like you just shun all that away and just do bad code. But there's a give and take there. It's like you can code something quickly and it cannot be the best code, but if it works and there's no problems there, then yeah, you've saved yourself a lot of time and headache just trying to code the perfect system, right? Like, sometimes you have to do that, and it is a balancing act. But like, people commonly talk about how Undertale was coded, and the entire dialogue tree for Undertale is in one big switch statement, and it's you wouldn't do that. Like, you probably wouldn't want to do that, but if it works for them, it works for them. And like, Undertale sold a bazillion copies, so like, there you go. And there's a bunch of cases like that where games were just not coded very well. Like, I think Celeste is another one where they coded the movement, and it's like one big script that's like 3,000 lines long, and it's a big if else beast, but like, it's Celeste, right? Like, so it's one of those things where it's like, you can code it however you want, and you might be facing like a bit of technical debt down the line. But I think that was the biggest thing. It was like, that was one of those things where it's like, I thought that I was going to have all this perfect code and stuff like that. And, you're going to have to do like really crazy math to figure out what is going on in the process, like with the processing, and make sure that you're not overloading the CPU and like running really bad code or whatever it is, right? But it's like, no, you can just write whatever, and as long as it works, it works. It's just making sure that you don't have any edge cases that are really bad, or like, it's just really unoptimized. But
I imagine, as you say, that as long as it works, there's several people that are slamming their fists onto the table right now.
No kidding, right? Like, they're like, they're so mad at me. It's like, to me, it's like, it's an art first. And so like, it doesn't really matter if the instructions you're giving the computer to make the art run. It doesn't matter if those instructions aren't the most optimized. It's like, those instructions are just there to make the pictures on the screen move around. And as long as it's not frustrating to the end user, it does not matter. So that was probably one of the things that I realized is not the most important, is like perfect code. So
what's next for you in Scrambled Software then?
I am working on another game, like I mentioned before. I'm not really ready to talk about it because it's still very, very early. But yeah, I like the whole goal of Quail Crossing was to kind of prove to myself that I could actually be a solo developer and make something on my own that people would spend money on. And I, like, honestly, my goal was to make a case of beer off of the game. Like, that was like, it's like, if I get the game out and, you know, it sells to, like, you know, some of my friends, that's fine. And if that's the only people that buy it, then that's all I care about, is like, I just want to see if I can get this game out there. And and then the next game is going to be a little bit more of a commercial effort.
RPG? No.
It is an RPG, I will say that it is. But I'm a lot more confident in my abilities because I released this last game, that I know that, like, I can do that kind of thing. So I think that's the problem people get hung up on, is the initial game they're trying to make is going to be like an RPG or something like that. But it's like, if you can do like a stepping stone kind of thing, you know, like, this game is an RPG, but it's not going to be like a super extensive RPG, right? Like, you're going to have like a couple of stats and that's going to be it, right? Like, and so it's like, it's kind of knowing your limits and trying to like stay within those and not go way above it. And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of people make, is trying to go out and make that MMO for their first game, you know. And it's like, don't do that. Just make something simple that you can do, and then you'll gain confidence and be able to make something, you know, 10 times as good the next time. So that's my mentality towards it.
Is there anything else that you would like to talk about, or any?
The one thing I didn't really mention was the game dev group has actually been a huge help. It's a Okanagan Game Developers Association. It's just a local game dev group. Your co-host James is one of the organizers. The group has been so great just to like connect with local people, like local developers. And I think that if anybody is out there and they're, you know, working on their games alone, you should try and reach out to, like, if you have a local game dev group, like, definitely check that out, because it gets you, like, to actually talk to people face to face about this kind of stuff. And you don't really get that chance very often. And that's been like a huge help for me, is just like being able to go to the dev group and just talk to people about the things you're working on and see what they're working on too. It's just like, it definitely is like it's a boost, like a morale boost kind of thing, right? Like, just to talk to people that are doing the same kind of thing and struggling with a lot of the same struggles that you are too. So
when you say go to them, you're talking about like physically in person?
Yeah, we have like a physical group.
Do you think if it was a digital meetup, would it have still been as beneficial? Or is it the actual, like, for you being able to go there physically kind of was a big important part for it?
There's a lot of benefits I find in the going there physically. Like, if it was like we did like we've done Discord like presentations before, and that's fine. But actually going and being in a physical space with people and like getting to know them is just, it's something that as humans we need. So it's as game developers, we don't really get, you know, like, you're oftentimes just like in front of your computer for hours and hours and hours, and you don't actually physically talk to people or see people. And I think that's been like a big help. That was one of the driving factors to me releasing Quail Crossing, was me bringing that game to the dev group and showing it to them and seeing the reactions. So I think that was like actually having a physical, like, oh, these people are actually laughing and having fun with my game. Like, oh, wow, that's, you know, maybe this is something that I could actually do. So I think that's probably one of the things that I would recommend to new devs, is like, if you have the access to something like that, like a local dev group, if you're in a bigger city, you definitely do. Because this is like not a big city where I live. And I was kind of shocked to actually find something like that. And yeah, it's been a huge help. I wouldn't be doing this interview if I didn't go to that. So